Greetings, sir and sirettes, and welcome back to From the Depths with me, Lathrix, and of course, welcome back at long last to the campaign. In today's episode, we are going to be continuing our push into the Onyx Watch's territory, and we are going to be finishing off my lovely little railboat here. And at long last, this thing also has a name. It is now called Widow, as was suggested by the comments. It turns out that Widow is actually a fantastic name for this little ship, as first of all, it does kind of look like a spider currently clambering on a normal ship, but ultimately it's got a very small yet very potent bite. But first, we actually need to complete the ship, so before we get into battles and utter destruction, we're going to do a tiny little bit of finishing off here. So the first thing we really need to do is sort out the shielding. The shielding is going to be quite easy because of the huge amount of engine power this thing has. It's just a matter of me placing them everywhere, so most likely that's going to be completely skipped. However, we're also going to be adding 2 new weapon systems to this boat, because as much as I love this gun, and this gun is truly fantastic in terms of both fun and functionality, it does lack a certain bit of pure damage. The ship itself does not do enough damage to really warrant the size of the ship, the cost, and the block count. So rather than making a smaller ship to house the same kind of gun, we're going to give it a bit more purpose by adding cruise missiles. Missiles which go a ridiculous range before unleashing hell upon the enemy, hopefully doing a lot of damage per shot, going for quality over quantity for once. On top of all of that, though, there is one thing I'm going to do first, and that is we're going to edit the turret a little bit. As a lot of you did say, I've kind of gone overboard with how many auto-loaders we have. Considering this thing only shoots once per 7 seconds, there is no need for so many auto-loaders. These are both expensive, explosive, and very space-consuming. So I'm going to remove all of them, other than probably 1 or 2 with probably with full 4 stacks rather than 3, which will make the whole thing a lot simpler and a lot nicer to look at. In addition, what I should do, and I may do, I'm not sure about it just yet, I may be adding some more batteries in the space we have left. More batteries and, of course, more charges for the railgun, thus giving the shots a little bit of extra speed and kinetic damage. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, all nice and boring, and I'll be right back once the turret is looking a little bit more reasonable. And so we test out the missiles for the first time. The turret is now finished, it's adding an extra 30 meters per second to the shots, and no longer has the extra auto-loaders. I've also cut back on the amount of ammo supply that was currently on the ship, so that it's, well, just saving blocks and saving resources. And these missiles seem to be doing just fine. They are quad warhead, all fragment. I may change one to explosive in the future that can go just over 2,700 before running out of fuel, it seems. So that is more than enough range for any fight we're actually going to be in, which is just beautiful. We've just set up its AI, and that is done. So the turret is done, and so are the 2 extra weapon systems, the 2 little missile cruisers here and here. The 2 extra cruise missiles, rather, on the sides. So now all that remains is to add the shields. I'm also going to spawn in one of my submarines, one of the trilobites, and then we shall begin our first battle with one of these aiding our ships. I may spawn in a second once I've finished this Widow, and then perhaps use 2 or 3 Widows, or 2 Widows and a sub, along with the bunker for the first test battle. Well, good luck to any shell getting through that. It's finally time to test out the Widow in one of the most controlled tests I think I've ever done in the campaign. I have lowered the battle size significantly so only the Widows will be spawned, and we are going to be fighting against a strength 15 enemy, which has 2 no, it doesn't have 2 buttresses, it has a single buttress, and 2 of these which I simply can't pronounce. So with all that in mind, let's go. The main thing I'm going to be looking for, honestly, in the battle, will be just how the AI actually handles, and less so the railgun itself. The railgun has already proven itself to me, and I do know that right now they are still a little bit buggy. Wow, that went straight through the top. That's ridiculous. Wow. Goodbye all of your armor. I wonder if it did any damage to the gun. By the looks of it, it has. It looks like it's actually disconnected it, and the cruise missiles have landed anyway, thus rendering it completely destroyed. Yeah, the railgun's aim is a little bit weird. The actual aiming inaccuracy is less than 0.3 at the moment. Actually far less, because I've increased the amount of barrels we've got, and even added stabilizers to the shells. But a lot of people have been reporting, and it's actually been confirmed, that the railguns don't add the speed correctly for their aiming, and can sometimes, well, just outright miss. Which is a shame, but for larger vehicles it doesn't really matter, particularly over such long ranges. Let's see. Oh, when the shell hits though, it just goes straight through, it's fantastic. Then we have the cruise missiles, which are kind of... that's... okay. What the hell? Cruise missile. That's not what you do to the enemy, that's just disrespectful. It's still there as well. I really hope that this cruise missile ends up detonating. Okay, well, I think, if nothing else, they're definitely suited for long-range battles with their missiles, and that's what I was looking for. Will these things crash into each other? The big problem is, at the moment, they're not really set specifically to go left or right or do anything else fancy. They simply stay back at around about 1,800 meters if possible, which they were doing fairly well with the initial couple of fights. So, I'm happy enough, and when the turret actually hits, it's kind of fantastic, and it will be doing some crippling damage. That first shot actually managed to disconnect 2 barrels from the firing mechanism, which was just purely great. But the aiming is a little bit weird, so let's go ahead and let's find ourselves a proper battle and use them as assistance along with our submarine. Whilst we head into the next battle against this strength 222 with our full block count this time, I just want to have a quick word about the Widow in its current state. I am not happy with the turret. I've just went off very quickly to the sandbox mode to test out a few things, and I've decided I'm going to be changing how the shell works. First of all, I'm going to be making it slightly bigger in terms of diameter, and secondly, we will be using explosive warheads in addition to fragment warheads, as they just seem to do more damage for when the shell simply can't get to a more frail area, giving it a little bit more use. One other thing I want to say is I did experiment using the different shell types, the different shell head types, and although some of them do give more AP, the drawbacks are kind of ridiculous, such as nerfing explosives by, I think it's 80% or something like that, so it's only 20% effective, and other such negatives, and the other AP head has the big drawback of being able to crumple if it hits something with too much armor, so then the shell goes off far too early. So at the moment, I think I will be keeping this shell head, the regular AP round, but I will be changing the actual layout of the shells in the future, and possibly making the weapon itself a little bit more fearsome. Okay, let's enable the fight. Okay, maximum block count. So we do want all of these to spawn in. I do want my submarine to actually be in this battle. Let's move it over here though, just for safety's sake, and let's spread out the Widows far more than the previous battle. Of course, they can be as far back as possible since both of their weapon types are ridiculously long range. I do, however, want the bunker in the battle rather than the spite. Just because it can tank damage a lot better, and will probably be a lot better in the front of this fight, which it already is. Fantastic. We'll put it over here so it's not getting in the way of the other ships, and let's get into the battle. And so battle begins. The long-range missiles have been launched, and I'm hoping this will be quite an easy battle. Purely due to we have a massive advantage in terms of fleet size. It seems the bunker is already absolutely obliterating the enemies, which is rather nice to see. You still can't beat good old-fashioned custom cannons, unless you build an advanced cannon to shoot normal shells, in which you can beat it completely, but let's ignore that and just bask in the glory for a second. Oh, that's a shame. A couple of those missiles simply missed, but the one that hit looked fantastic. So one of the big problems with the railguns is simply you can't see the shot. Unless you're using a much larger shell or perhaps explosive rounds, it's impossible to see just how much it's really helping. That's why I have to keep on going back to the sandbox mode and testing it. They do help, it's just I'm not that happy with it just yet. The bulwark is taking a lot of fire, but it's taking it very well. The shields haven't went down yet. And the enemy have been completely obliterated. And there comes a cruise missile, although it's not technically a cruise missile, I just like calling it that, and I'll keep on calling it anyway. Wow, that one went straight through. Ow. That's on one missile, that's really nice. Where's the sub currently? There's the sub, you can tell by the insane looking missiles, which are basically coming out of the water. So many missiles. I think very soon we will be using laser weaponry. However, I don't want to go over the top with it, as it can very easily be a little bit of a cheap weapon. It can basically obliterate entire sections of a ship almost instantly, in particular things like the AI and weaponry. So what I'll probably do is make ships very similar to the Widow, or perhaps even steal the Widow's hull, since it has such a huge engine, and make very rapid firing lasers and make it that way. So just long range, but slightly weaker than usual lasers, so that I don't end up with a second E. coli which just completely obliterated everything. The bulwark's finally taking some damage on the front, and honestly there's a good chance that was its own cannon. What's left to... Ooh, hello, what are you? I think I've seen you before, but not for some time. That looks awesome! It's like a little block of armour, I absolutely adore that. It's gonna look a bit flatter in a second, admittedly, but still. Here comes some more cruise missiles, which I adore watching. Oh, the amount of damage they do is just fantastic. I am very tempted to add one extra warhead and use proximity fuses, just because it would look amazing. The sheer amount of fragments that's actually releasing is phenomenal. Oh look, it's an extra one. Okay, what are you called then? What are you? You are the... Oh, you're the Warden! I thought that was the other vessel, the thinner... Oh, obviously I'm wrong. Did the missiles really just go straight through there? You can't sometimes tell because of the lag it takes to actually show the damage. But yeah, it seems like the entire bottom section there just basically got removed. Whoops. Oh no, please don't say the Spite is currently absolutely devastating the side of the bulwark. Thank you, heavy shielding. Really wish they'd make it easier to actually stop your ship shooting each other, since failsafes only apply to your own ship, the ship that it's actually attached to. Oh wow. A whole volley of the Spite's main weapon there got completely deflected. I mean, they do of course have the whole line of sight thing until it can actually see the target, which thankfully stopped it there, but it's so easy to accidentally hit the back of another ship. Where's the sub currently? The sub is right there, and in a bad position as well. Ugh. What I'll need to do is go into the naval AI and actually start sorting out different different broadside ranges and such, so that we actually avoid this mess in the future. This is the problem when you're only starting to use certain ships together. It's not good to... Well, it's not easy to really balance them around. That next volley is going to hit the bottom of the bulwark, of the bunker. Nope, thankfully it isn't. Okay, excellent. Although our sub is currently surfacing, for reasons I'm not sure of, honestly. Perhaps it was going down, it may have took some damage to the control block earlier, and now it's simply writing itself how deep it's going to be. It should be 30 meters down. If it went lower than that due to a control block being destroyed, it's probably just surfacing again. The enemy does have a flyer, and to my knowledge, the Onyx Watch only has one flyer, which I think is an absolutely fantastic one, which I really want to steal at some point. But I am also aware this is a nightmare to steal. That anti-missile system, though. Seeing the cruise missiles explode is kind of fantastic. So many fragments. And that was one cruise missile detonating there. Hurt everything. Look at the amount of damage that's done. That's just phenomenal. Okay, so what we've learnt today is that the AI still needs a bit of work, although the Widows ultimately are doing really well. It's just they need a different turret. They either need to be more focused around being more of a standard long-range turret, so regular shells, explosives, or perhaps going a bit extreme with armor penetration and kinetic damage, because at the moment it's just a bit lacking, although the cruise missiles do make up for that. Look at that! That's just... I love missiles so much. But yeah, we will be using lasers in the not-so-distant future, and considering I really want to make a flyer soon, we could always combine the two. An airship with lasers is never a bad idea. Unless you look at my old design, the influenza that desperately needs to be updated or simply deleted. Okay, the flyer's gone. What's next? Why is my sub surfacing out of the water? That's a good question. Where is it? Is it this one? Yeah. Trilobite, what are you doing? I think it was reversing. Yeah, it was This keeps happening to me, and now the AI definitely has the area ticked to disable reversing. But for some reason, every now and again, for absolutely no freaking reason, this thing will just reverse. And that causes it to sink. Sorry, that causes it to rise to the surface, because essentially it's the opposite of the normal up and down due to the hydrofoils being always at the same angles and being suited to going forwards. Come on, be deleted already. That is a really annoying place for the enemy to spawn, right next to the bulwark. On the upside, the bulwark's going to be able to shoot almost all of its cannons on its broadside for a few seconds. On the downside, it did run the risk of being right in the way of all of the fire of my various other ships, which wouldn't have been fantastic. It's sadly a little bit too close to the Spite for the Spite's main gun to actually turn on. I think after this, what I'll do is I will end up clearing off the rest of the Onyx Watch, and then going straight for their base. We are very close to it now, the Onyx Throne, which of course is up in the north. That's going to be a really cool fight. Ah, they couldn't quite turn fast enough. The AI is dead, so it will start self-destructing in 8 seconds. So this one's pretty much once again done for. Then there's only one enemy left, which, yep, only one. Just one red square. Yep, one red, well, not square, but one red boxy thing. So many missiles. Hello. The Widows have actually done a much better job this time of actually staying out of each other's way. I think simply spawning them a little bit further apart seems to do the trick. And the final enemy, I'm so sorry, sir. Oh, yep, the Spite is actually firing on this one. And down it goes. Thank you for trying, I do respect your courage to spawn in. However, you didn't really get too rewarded there. And our fleet moves on. But before we do, I think we should bribe a certain faction down here so that we don't end up fighting them. Do you want some scrap? Do you want some natural? And do you want some crystal? Well, here you go. Look how friendly we are now with these. Wow. Actually allied with the Steel Striders and the Twin Guard, the two factions I want to fight the most, are currently friendly with me. Two, well, allies, in fact. Why is that? Why are they so friendly with me paying off the Scarlet Dawn? They're not particularly friendly with the Scarlet Dawn, so why would that be the case? Was it actually increasing? No, it wasn't. It was going down because I was paying off an enemy. It must have been they must have a bad relationship with the Onyx Watch, yet hatred and aggressive expansion, which actually makes sense if you look at the lore behind them. But okay, so I'm simply destroying one of their enemies. So if I kept on doing that, attacking things I hate. Oh, and they also hate the White Flyers, which of course I've recently destroyed. So it's only natural that our lovely Nurglian symbol here is actually friends with them now. Elsewhere on the map, Our third traitorous Gorgon has just been created. Easily one of the most wasteful resource harvesters I have ever seen, and yet they are just glorious to see working. It's just something truly fantastic to see an enemy HQ reduced to a simple resource gatherer. But of course these have been altered somewhat. I have massively changed the missile systems on this to no longer shoot harpoons. They actually shoot regular missiles now, which do a fair bit of damage, as they were huge. Anyway, so it didn't take much effort to actually convert them to a more useful form. I was tempted to remove some of the spinning blocks because of course rams on spinning blocks no longer function, but I just couldn't bring myself to. This time we're starting much further away from the enemy, giving the Widows a distinct advantage as we can make use of the ridiculous range on their railguns, which honestly is the only advantage they truly have in battle. Their sheer range and, well, their ability to shrug off a lot of regular cannon fire, although it's going to be quite some time until we can test that against the advanced cannons, purely because none of the NPCs, none of the enemy factions at least, are currently equipped with them. So I may actually test that in the future by simply shooting at it with various advanced cannons, but for now it will go untested. Let's begin the battle, and this time we're having a bunker spawn before the spite in terms of the secondary spawns. Go! There we are, and I'm actually going to go straight onto the sub to make sure it doesn't mess up like last time. Straight away, the bulwark, sorry, not the bulwark, the bunker is right in the middle of the battle, which is exactly where it should be. Yay for heavy shielding. Heavy shielding and a large engine, it's all you could ever want. Although soon there is going to be a lot of differences in how fuel works in this game, so that may put a big hamper on our current mega shields, which I'm actually quite looking forward to because it's going to be a massive resource overhaul, with resource actually being stored on ships, buildings and, what do you call it, fortresses, rather than simply being in some form of invisible inventory, able to be used at will. So that's pretty darn cool, and that's coming in the future. Oh, one AI dead already. It's only the healing from the small ship here, which is already being pretty much destroyed, actually surviving. Making it survive, rather. It is rather glorious seeing the long-range ships there at the back, constantly shelling and helping out. Along with, of course, the ocean itself essentially firing from the depths. There we go, had to skip that then, that took forever, just so I could actually start using my binoculars a little bit, so we can have a look at the further range allies without having to actually move our camera all the darn time. Shells flying off the bunker there as they hit the shields. Ooh, and I just saw a really nice railgun shot hit the currently downed enemy. Well done, one of you lovely widows. We'll definitely be replacing that gun though in the future. So many shots coming from the bunker, it's absolutely ridiculous. I love that. Shooting from the front there just looks fantastic, and by the looks of it, it's about to get a broadside in as well. Hitting everyone at once, the bunker way. Well, I feel like these guys are pretty much done for now. That one's already sinking and dying, that one's too damaged, this one has lost pretty much all of its weaponry, and this one is currently taking the brunt of the broadside. Okay, who's next? Actually, who is next? This was a strength 215, but oddly it didn't seem like... Oh, there they are. I was going to say, I didn't have any large vessels attacking me, but no, there is an Alcazar ready and waiting. The Trilobite's getting a little bit close, it must be said, for my state of mind, so I may actually manually steer this away a little bit in a second. In fact, I think I will now. There we go, turning to the left. Sadly, it's not the fastest at turning, but it is slowly making its way away from the bunker now. The last thing I want to do is have that whole salvo of missiles hit the bottom armor of the bunker. Believe it or not, there is no shielding there. Absolutely no protection whatsoever, so that would be pretty darn terrible. It also has the engine on the very bottom level, so come to think about it, torpedoes would probably do really well versus bunker. Hello, Alcazar. Look how small you are compared to bunker. I thought you were bigger than bunker. Oh, you're not small in comparison, it's just you're about the same size, which is really weird. Wow, most of those missiles being obliterated, they're completely obliterated. Not even close enough for the fragments to actually do much. That time it did. Again, the giant missiles from the Widows, even if you take them out, if they're close enough, with so many fragments, it still does a lot of damage. And of course, that's why I'm thinking about using the proximity warheads in the future. Fragments everywhere. And the top half of the Alcazar is just about standing in there. As the bulwark slowly circles it, of course the bulwark has a broadside range of only 300 meters. The idea is it basically does this, it circles the enemy once it gets there. I have slowly made that better and better. The chance of bulwark actually crashing into a target is a lot less than it used to be, although if the target stops moving, it does tend to run that risk. Also, ow, was that one of my own missiles? No, maybe. Cutting it a little bit close there, Trilobite. Is it actually sinking? It seems like it is. Yeah, a lot of internal damage has already been done, and most of the outside armor has been completely stripped away. Lots of hull breaches there. Goodbye, Alcazar. You fought well. With the Alcazar down, the last two members of the fleet are here to try and defend their homeland. However, now horribly outnumbered, with the second bulwark spawning in, and honestly, a little bit outgunned by the sheer amount of damage heading their way, I fear they will not live to see the end of this day. And with that, I think this will be the last battle I show of the Onyx Watch, unless something amazing happens, until we get to the enemy's main base, the Onyx Throne. Because at this stage, we're just fighting the same enemies over and over again with the exact same ships, so unless I really change up one of my ships, or I create a new one, or I encounter something really bizarre, because I'm always recording, so I'm simply editing it in, this is it. So, in the background, I will just leave the destruction of the final few Onyx Watch vessels. And all that's left to say is thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed today's episode, then of course, likes, favourites, shares, comments, all that good stuff helps out me, helps out the channel, and most importantly, shows that From the Depths is a series you wish to see continued in the future. Next episode, I expect it to be the very end of the Onyx Watch. Goodbye.